And we live. Hello and welcome everyone. It's time for another exciting episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And today's topic is going back to the office in tech, yes or no. So in this discussion, we'll dive into the complexities surrounding the return to the office debate within the tech industry and explore some pros and cons and from productivity to the company culture. And let's have a debate if it's a good idea to consider whether returning to the office is the right move for your company. Whether you are for office or against office, come and join our conversation about the future of work in tech. And please obviously introduce yourselves in the comments. And while you're introducing yourselves in the comments, please let us know if you prefer to work fully remotely. Do you like going back to the office, and how many days would you prefer to go to the office? So that would be great to see who's joining us today and what's opinions out there. Or at least say hi. That would be nice if you say hi in the office. So again, tonight the topic is going back to the office in tech, yes or no. Before I pass it over to our speakers to introduce themselves, I just want to remind you quickly that we're streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you miss a stream, no worries. You can always watch the replays by subscribing to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. And I also highly recommend to join our meetup group, same IT Career in Australia, because we also do face-to-face events there as well. And if you want to make sure that you never miss the next show, meetup group has the notifications for upcoming events as well. And I also encourage you to use this live stream as the opportunity to network with people in the industry. You can ask as many questions as you want on any platform, but remember, please stay on the topic. And most active participants will receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. So we have a few people joining us. James is here. Aline is here, Mark is here. Thank you for joining us. Can't see your comments about if you want to go to the office or not, but yeah, so please share with us. I'll just pass it on to our speakers to introduce themselves. We'll start with Raul, please.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Raul Caceres. I'm the Executive Director of Operations at Canteen Australia. But over the last 20 years or so, I've been working to use data and tech in ways that help communities around the world.
Thank you, Raul. And Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael Milewski, a software developer at Mabel. Mabel is connecting people looking for disability or aged care support with local independent support workers. So we're like a matching service between people who need care and people who provide care. I've been in software for 24 years now and still loving writing code every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And Pedro, please.
Hey guys, so my name is Pedro. I am the solutions architect at Infinity. We developed data integration and application for different companies around Australia, US, and UK. I've been in IT for the last 20 years, and I also co-founder of Mind Innovation, an RTO here on the Gold Coast in Burleigh Heads.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I think I'll just start with this discussion with more informal questions before we go to more discussion from organizational point of view. But I just want to ask you personally, do you guys like to work remotely? Do you like coming to the office? If you would be, moving jobs now, would you look for the fully remote job, or would you don't mind to go to office a few days? I would love to know your personal opinion. Maybe we'll start with Pedro. What about you?
Yeah, so I like the option to choose. I think if you have the flexibility to choose between going to the office and working from home or working remotely, that's a great opportunity. My opinion, my personal life, I like to go to the office time to time. I like to be with my team, talk to them, find solutions, and have face-to-face meetings. With the Infinity ICT, we all fully remote, so we don't do that often. We do once a month. We may go out for a coffee. We catch up together when we can. With the college, because it's a face-to-face college for international students, would be unfair if everyone worked remotely. So we push most of our staff to do some work from home and also work from the office. They can find the schedule themselves, but everyone needs to have the opportunity to be able to work from home and have the opportunity to work from the office as well. So at the moment, because I have 1-month-old baby, I am fully working from home. I'm just going to the office for meetings and when it meets. And I love this lifestyle where I have the flexibility. But again, it is hard to find a place like that, especially with everything that's going on with this flexibility of work from home or working remotely.
Thank you, Pedro. What about you, Raul?
I'm also really big on flexibility, both for myself and also for the team that I manage. I think I usually use flexibility as one of the key selling points when I'm attracting new talent. I think we know how hard it can be to attract really strong, productive tech talent in Australia. So for me, I use that as a starting point alongside being able to work in a mission-driven organization, so in the non-for-profit space. But I think I was one of those families that decided to move away from the city during COVID. So for me, having to go to the office every day will be really, really challenging. So, but I do like to have a little bit of face-to-face time with the team. So at the moment, what we're doing is we require every single member of the team to come once a month to do very meaningful activities where we engage with each other with things that we couldn't do remotely. And then apart from that, just one day a week where they have the choice if they want to come and hang out with the teams. And obviously from role to role is a bit different. Some roles that are very focused on just fixing tickets, it's a lot easier for them to work most of their time from home. But if we have business analysts that really want to understand a service that we're delivering and then build a solution around that, then I can see how it is important to find people that are more in favor of spending more time in the office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, your original question would be, what am I looking for potentially in the next job? And since COVID, I've had 3 roles that have been all remote. So in a way, I'm like, okay, it's almost not a question of whether the next role would have some remote aspect. But in all those roles, I just see a lot of things missing. A lot of people new to the industry just missing out on actually understanding the core concepts of getting together. And by remote, like my current company is based in Sydney. The previous one was in Byron Bay, and the one before that was in Cairns. So in the Cairns one, I didn't even meet anybody in the team during my stay in that company. Now, having had a lot of years of experience, I can kind of understand what some of those missing pieces are and try and fill in the gaps. But certainly, I think for my own kind of sanity, I'd certainly, my current role has an office. That's where I am right now. And certainly looking forward to it. And another job would be one with the option of certainly working in an office.
Yeah, I must say I did like 360 because when the COVID started, I was hating the idea of working remotely. I was like, oh my God, like what I will be doing like at home every day. And then it all started and we started working remotely. I'm like, oh, actually, it's not too bad. I'm now enjoying it. So, but I'm more with you, Michael. Like, I think in the next job, I do want to actually come to the office like 1 or 2 days, or at least not be fully remote, because my previous company was fully in Sydney and I was the only one in Melbourne. And I think that fully remote as being actually quite far from your team, probably not, I guess, not the ideal situation for me. Like I at least want to like make sure I can catch up with people for coffee than my coworkers for coffee. So guys, the next question I wanna ask. So there is obviously all these statistics coming around. So I grabbed one just from Seek right now that the roles that can be done from home are declining. So the companies now don't advertise that as many remote work. And we hear about it in the news every time. It's like push back to the office. So that now it feels like almost privileged to have a fully remote work. And more and more companies want employees to come to the office and even linking bonuses to the office attendance. So I'm just wondering, what's your thoughts about it? Do you see some benefits of bringing people back to the office? And what do you think the reasons it's happening? Because there's so many the reasons behind it that we can see, or maybe they just want to feel the commercial real estate falling off. We need to bring people back to offices, or is it maybe it's a sneaky way to do layoffs? Or if you don't want to work in the office, you can just leave. So what's your thoughts? There's so many rumors out there. What is your thoughts about that push back to the office, and why do you think that's happening? Maybe we start with Raul.
I think there are different reasons in the commercial sector. At least when I talk to some of my peers in the commercial sector, it seems to be a little bit of a push at the moment around cost reduction, increased productivity, and somehow in some people's minds, I think that productivity may increase, or maybe getting a little bit of forced attrition happening if they start forcing things that they know some people may not be too aligned with. I think in practice, at least for what I see in my teams, I think productivity is as good as how you manage and how you help the teams understand what their tasks are. I think even before, when people were in the offices 5 days a week, you still had some people that really were not productive at all, even if they were spending the most time out of everyone in their offices. And I think there's also a second side of that, where I do see some concerns about people having invested in space for their offices, and those spaces not being used, and then getting some pressure from their boards about making sure that the space that they paid for is utilized to a minimum level. So I really feel like it's now we're pushing all the way on the other end. But I think my fear is that if we go straight from A to B, then you go too far onto the B side, and then you'll start losing some key people in your teams that for which that sort of new arrangement really wouldn't work. And I know at least a few members of my team wouldn't be able to work if I say tomorrow, okay, from next week we're all coming back to the office. So I'm always thinking about that idea of balance. How can we find the right balance where we can try and fit as much as possible what works for different members of the team, so that you can have an engaged, high-performing team, which is a hard balance to reach. But I think if working in close communication with everyone, and also trying to talk to senior management and the boards about some of their concerns, you're able to reach that point where everyone gets what they want to get out of this flexibility.
Definitely. We'll just go with everyone first before we dive in more into the reasons. Michael, what do you think? Why all this hype of pushing people back to the office happening?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell, right? It's hard to know whether it's managers not having anyone to manage around them. And obviously, having that room, having those meetings that a lot of people kind of have, all of a sudden that kind of dissipates a little bit. It's not as real if it's just in Zoom. It's not the same thing if you're not seeing those people. So I think there's a lot of roles that take that on, and it means that those people are like, hang on a second, I used to be rushed off my feet, getting a coffee, walking into a meeting room, seeing some people doing this and that, and all of a sudden that's gone. Like, they're sitting at their table. The reverse of that is me as a developer. I'm not actually a fan of what most offices have done in terms of open plan. Even here, there's an open plan office there to take this call. I need to be in a closed cubicle. Probably, I would have actually done this better at home. So certainly as developers, where a lot of your time is focused, concentration time, then actually you could probably, and I say probably, set up a better environment at home, which means it's kind of this difficult trade-off, because even though in general I feel there's a lot to get out of an office space, as a developer and somebody who's doing thought work that needs to have hours or chunks of concentration, I don't need to be by myself. I could be pair programming or be within a team of 2 or 3 people constantly talking, but at least that focus is there. So I think it's hard to see whether management has just kind of found these gaps where they're like, where is everyone? Developers are going, hang on a second, I'm actually way more productive on the things I know how to do. And this is, I think, the kind of the linchpin here, that if you know what you're doing, you can keep doing that. But if you're new to the industry, and I think 5 years is the average age in the tech industry, i.e. we're growing the whole time. So we've got people coming out of university that haven't really done university in person. They've done it in COVID lockdown. They've been 2 or 3 years in the industry. They have never been in an office. They may have never even worked a banker's hours job, you get in at 9, you leave at 5, at which stage they may not even have understanding of what it's like to collaborate, communicate, the benefits of some of those things. They may not even know what they're missing. So certainly, I think there is a void, and maybe some of those managers are also noticing that void and saying, right, if we get these people back in the office at least some period of time, we'll get better alignment, better teamwork, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Pedro, is anything to add to this? Yes.
I agree with Mike and Raul. I think it's case by case. You need to analyze. It's not a simple, straight answer, but definitely I think it's something that Michael mentioned that's really important. All the new generation that come out to the workforce and trying to learn the rope and try to get there, they're missing this human interaction. They're missing this component about how to learn the ropes with someone senior by your side, and interactivity happens much better when you're in the same space as others. Although we have Slack, Teams, Google Meet, whatever, you have so many tools, it is not the same as having someone by your side. I think that is a big issue that we as seniors and we as managers and we as business owners, we always gonna need to look at, and looking at the society as an issue, because we may be solving a problem of, okay, you know what, I'm gonna cancel my office, I'm gonna save some money, but then, all right, for the new generations come on board, where they will learn those tricks and tips that I've learned during my career, because I think we here are all old enough to say we have learned a lot from others during our development phase. And that was amazing, that was unique. And now how I can give that back to the society, to this new generation. So I think that's a really important topic that Michael mentioned. At the same time, of course, there will be people, they cannot work in an office space. They just don't have. I have probably my developer is watching, because I invited him, and he was my neighbor. Like when I say my neighbor, he was my next door neighbor. I tried 4 or 5 times. Hey, come here, let's have a coffee, let's discuss. Oh, no, I prefer doing via Microsoft Teams, via Slack. All right, it's his preference. I have to respect that. I have to understand. But at the same time, I always try to push it so he can come out from his comfortable zone that he is in, into try to, okay, let's interact in a different way. It is a really fine line for us to define the reasons why we should force or not force. But I think, there is a lot of people missing the opportunity of working in an office.
Yeah, but the kind of continuing this topic around not everyone obviously happy to come to the office, but on another side, there's definitely a few researchers that are saying about some negative impacts of the psychological well-being, including increase of frustration, increase of negative emotion, loneliness, and so on, and people working fully from home. So there is definitely some research indicating that, it's not all that healthy and great, and you just sit at, and not interacting with your coworkers. What do you think about this? Do you think that some of your, maybe yourself or some of your colleagues experience those negative emotions or anxiety or loneliness because they just never interact with the colleagues? Or is it vice versa? I don't see these people, that's great, and I don't need to see them. What about you, Michael?
I mean, as you said that, this one particular moment in my life came to mind where I was on a team. I used to work at a company called realestate.com.au, and we had this team that was really good together. We went for beers. At lunchtime, we played, pool or whatever it was on a Friday night, and just really worked well together. And then at some point, I switched teams and then switched companies and tried to reach out to these people because I thought we were the best of mates. But it was no, we were best of mates in that team. And that was kind of this learning for me to say, oh, okay, your colleagues at work. And if I look back, every workplace, I actually got maybe one friend from a workplace. So I'd have one friend that I'd then contact years later and still catch up with. But most people, you'd have this amazingly good connection because you did do all of these things together. You potentially did, maybe even join a sports team with them whilst you're on that project, whilst you're in that team. So I certainly do agree that my health, well-being of meeting people, of having social interactions, of feeling uplifted by the people around me, even though it was paid for by the employer, by the company, by the fact that we were forced to be together, we actually, as humans, made the most of it. And now, all of a sudden, people go, oh, like, isn't it great? Like, you and your wife were working at home, remote. And I'm like, well, yeah, but we won't even spend that much time having coffee together, right? Because it's like, well, we've got our own social, we're joined because we've got kids together, we love each other, etc. But at the work level, even though both of us are IT, it's not that same connection. So it's almost like I'd want a work connection and then a home connection and then a friend's connection. So yeah, to me, I certainly do agree, and it's hard to pinpoint what it is, that there is a social aspect that has been across my life up till 2019, and that's kind of been taken away.
Yeah, definitely. Those extra, like, social interaction, and also those borders became quite blur between where is your work and where is your home life, where is the social life. And I think it depends on the personality as well. Some people cope with that really well, and they can put the boundaries around that. Okay, I finish work, that's my home time. But I think some people probably would struggle to put that stronger boundaries and just keep working all the time, or not spending like quality time with their friends. Raul, what do you see in your organization? Obviously, you said that majority of your staff working remotely. Like, do you see any difference in mental health, or like, do you think it just really depends on the person?
I mean, I do share the worry a little bit about young people in particular, like in people that were going through uni during COVID and then now going into the workforce. What I'm hearing is that they're really lacking some of those, what we will consider key soft skills, to be able to understand what the general rules are when you start working at a new place. And I've seen with some of the younger, I think someone on the chat was talking about graduates. So we've hired a couple of graduates in the past couple of years, and you can really see some of that stuff lacking a little bit. But you will consider, this is something that should be really common sense and easy to understand, that this is something that you will expect from someone entering the work environment. And then you try and dig a little bit deeper into that, and then you realize actually some of these young people have lacked the real life experience to understand what's a reasonable way to behave in a work environment. And our organization that supports young people impacted by cancer, a lot of the research we're looking into at the moment it's like a real crisis of, even though young people have so many ways to connect, at the same time they're feeling really disconnected and they don't have deeper connections. And we're really trying to work out what is it that we need to do to create environments for them so that they can feel more connected, and then try to bring them into more face-to-face environments, and then seeing that they're really having a sense of anxiety and preoccupation when they're interacting with each other in person, because they just haven't had that opportunity for a couple of years. And the longer they spend without doing that type of face-to-face interaction, the worse it gets. So even though I was like a fully remote supporter, I think being fully remote, it's probably not the answer. I feel there has to be the balance, and you have to create those opportunities. But the key thing for me is that those opportunities have to be of meaningful engagement. I think we cannot go back to the past where it was just about getting everyone into the office to just sit in the cubicle and then just be on Zoom calls the whole day. If we just go back to that, that's just not going to change anything. We really need to go back into the office to some degree to create meaningful interactions between the people that come, and have some activities that really make it worth people's while to be there.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some crazy statistics around that young people not even picking up the phones these days. They don't feel comfortable calling each other. They prefer texting each other rather than calling. Well, like that drives me insane if someone sends me more than like 4 messages. Like if I have to reply more than 4 messages, that's it. I'm calling because I'm just like have no patience to type back. But I definitely see that younger people can just type endlessly and have no need to actually pick up the phone. So it's definitely quite interesting how it's all gonna evolve.
Just quickly on. Just quickly on that one, Jana, I had an example where my son, who was 18 at the time, I said, can you just go get a burger? And I come back to him and he's in the car on the phone. I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, oh, it was too complicated. I've decided to go and get Uber Eats. And I'm like, there are 3 burger points. You just have to go into one and say, I want a burger with chips. And no, he went on Uber Eats because the presumably the interaction he had to have was just something he was not comfortable with.
So yeah, interesting. So obviously there is some consequences, and as we're moving more to that fully remote work. So Pedro, so anything to add there? We were just basically talking in terms of the mental health and
They summarize pretty well. I think there is a lot of cons in terms of mental health. I think the lack of communication, the lack of understand how people communicate. Each person has a different communication style, and you definitely can get better and can transfer the knowledge better when you can see people, because we just don't communicate through words. We communicate through gesture. We communicate through tone, through emotion, through so many. There's so much going on through the way we communicate that speaks more than words, and that you can only do through face-to-face. And if you got this new generation that is, as mentioned before, now been through the through university during COVID, hasn't had as much interaction, go out to work, and man, come on, when you work in different companies, by the time you're 30, 40, 50, you have to interact with so many people that if you miss that opportunity to learn how others communicate with you, because communication is about understanding others as well, that is a big problem. That will cause problems in the future for these people that soon they're going to be the managers for others, and how they're going to be able to manage people if they don't know how to communicate. I think, apart from all the mental health issue that we saw that during COVID, right? For those who are in Melbourne, we saw how tough it is to be isolated. And we need to think about that. Are we actually giving them an opportunity to be better, or are we imposing an opportunity to actually make, in long term, that's not going to be the best benefit?
Yeah. So again, it's a quite a complex issue. So we're not here to decide if we should go back to office or not, but there is so many multifacets here in terms of the management and well-being, and also company structure and the distributed teams. There's so many things taken into consideration. I want to get back to that productivity discussion. We have a few comments there as well, I think, about the productivity. James, I believe if the goal is to have productivity driving output, driving revenue, wouldn't happy workers therefore be most productive? And also, I think Mark is saying something around these lines as well. In my own experience with the productivity in the office versus working from home is similar. The downside I've seen, which may be a reason for people returning, is our fundamental need for social interaction. Mental health with youngest people is a growing issue. So I just want to come back to that productivity bit. Yep. So there's so many different data on it. One company go do research and say productivity drop. Another company go and do research that productivity increase. So I think I did a bit of Googling before, and I couldn't really find anyone actually providing some good research, because it seems like some research is only in particular professions or only in particular companies, and then it's against revenue. So what's your opinion, I guess, on that productivity thing? Do you think, how would you measure? Yeah, how would you say is the people actually more or less productive when they're at home? Like, how do you know if your team is more or less productive when they're at home? Maybe we'll start with Michael.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really hard one, right? Because as a developer, a lot of people might consider me as a bricklayer, right? So if I spend 1 hour of laying bricks, then I've built half a wall. So if I've spent an hour of non-stop writing code, then I have, created some extra value for the company. But that's so far from the truth, right? So much of the work that people do, and especially if they're segregated from the team, often ends up in being poor decisions, poor quality code, things that don't meet the customer requirements, things that need to be reworked, etc. So it becomes this quite difficult thing to say, well, what is actually productivity? Ultimately, is it the company's kind of, it has to be something bigger than what you can measure on a scale of how many meetings did you do, how many people did you unblock, how many promotions did you get in your team, how big did your team do this, or did you end up doing this? So I think it's really hard, and it's also hard to measure that in terms of like long term, right? Because you could do certain things and go, yep, this last quarter has been amazing, but maybe there was shortcuts taken to game the metrics. There was an article from Stack Overflow in the way they do. They kind of response to this. And I suppose they're generally saying, don't make it a question about productivity, make it a question about developer happiness or technology happiness. Look at the opportunities you give to people who are not in your geographic location, people with various disabilities, neurodiversity things. All of a sudden you're opening it up to them. Pedro, congratulations on a baby. You're giving, again, you've got an option where potentially you've got best of both worlds. You can still do the work stuff you want without the outlay on commuting, etc. So it's a hard one just to really justify it with productivity. In that Stack Overflow article I read, they did point to a couple of research papers, and they were suggesting that office productivity was considered here or there, but one of them stated the office productivity was at 46% anyway. So it was like, wow, we're only productive half the time. That's at that point, if we're productive half the time, whether it's in the office or at home, I don't think it matters. So yeah, I would argue that it's probably more about happiness. It may be viewed as productivity, so potentially we need to change that conversation around. But even if you are productive, and I think you mentioned this before, Jana, how do you keep, and throughout the 90s and 2000s, it was all about well-being and work-life balance. And that work-life balance for a large number of people has completely disappeared, because they were like, well, I took a longer lunch and I had to drop the kids off and do this, and now I'm working till 10 o'clock because my office is my home. And at that point, are those people productive? Maybe they're productive. Are they happy? Maybe not. So I don't know. I think it's really hard just to put it down to productivity being like the one tick. So maybe the challenge is for people not to use that term, but I'm just dodging your question.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like people do work longer hours, but again, working long hours doesn't mean that they're more productive. So that's basically another question in itself. But Pedro, like coming back to that productivity thing, like, do you have any examples in your team, like, or any ideas how to measure it?
Yeah. Look, I think in my previous role as a director of technology at Paramedical College, I had a team of 4, and we kind of like we create a really great work culture together. And something Mike said, happiness and productivity sometimes cannot be the same, and you cannot define what is productivity, especially when it comes to software development, like in such a clear KPI that, okay, that's perfect, we are meeting the targets, because it changes, in such a, we talk about agile environment where things has to be a little bit faster, a little bit changed, and analyze this, you may go 10 steps ahead, then suddenly go 2 steps down, and then okay, it means your productivity went down, or it means that we have found a hiccup, we have found a roadblock, and we need to work together as a team to find a solution for that. What I try to do is always have a clear communication with the team. So I always have the stand-up meetings, clear the daily meetings, stand-up meetings, whatever, but pretty clear communication with them, and let them to be as honest as possible with me. So they may have some bad days, they may have some great days. As long as they're open to me and they talk to me, and I'm here to support, I'm here to help you, and let's go through together this phase and see how we can improve your productivity if that's the case, or how you can be happier doing what you're doing. I try to always let my team decide. Of course, I have to make some tough decisions as a manager to push them to one side to another side. In that case, we had I had a data engineer, I had the business analyst, and I had a system analyst. Those three people, they different roles, but they work so well together time to time. They help so much together when they opt together that I say, and then I let them to be able to see this, and they made the choice themselves to, hey, you know what, 3 days a week we're gonna work from the office, and the other 2 days we can choose which day you want to work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. You can choose that. But it took a year, probably a year and a half, for us to come to that moment where they could see this and they could work so well when they're together, find solutions together. And sometimes being, no, you know what, for this task, I need to work from home because they're going to be way more productive without any disruptions around here. And okay, they go work from home for 1 day, 2 days, or weeks if you need it. But yeah, it is not a straight answer. We don't have that clear KPIs when come with, I think, that in the tech world, not like construction that is a little bit more, the delivers a little bit more clear. But I think the communication and the back-to-back communication between management and the team, it's mandatory. It's must. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep the productivity. And it doesn't matter if it's working from home or working in the office. I feel that I have great people, they great working from home, and I also have great people that actually work way better when they work from the office. So it's person by person as well.
Yeah, I think we're coming back to that. There is no approach that fits all. So some people can be more productive at home. Some people can be more productive in the office. Raul, what about you? Like, how do you have any productivity hacks there? Or like, have you seen friends?
I think I'm a strong believer that there's not a direct relationship between where you work and how productive you are. And I also agree with Pedro and Michael that trying to simplify what productivity means and trying to measure in a way, particularly in the tech space, is not quite that simple. I think for me, it goes down to good hiring. So you're hiring the right person for the job that you need done. So I have a team of about 18 people, and what we try and do is to have a more open planning process where we're trying to decide what each person is going to be doing. So I try to communicate as clearly as possible the organization strategy, and then try to also explain how our team is going to contribute towards that strategy, and then allow them to go and each of them to think about, okay, how is what I'm doing at the moment going to help for the next year? So we plan on a yearly basis. And I find that as long as people feel well located into how what they're doing contributes towards the bigger goals, and that there's a way for us to sort of check in and see how that's going. I don't feel like I have to be checking on them all the time. I just tell them, let's just keep the communication channels open. So if you cannot be, we have an expectation about where we want you to be online for that period of time. But if you need to move away, like, it's completely open. Just let us know. If for this person it's important to pick up their kids every day and spend half an hour with them every day when they come back from school, and then do 1 hour at night, that for me is totally fine. So micro accommodations. And I think the combination of those different elements that help the person feel appreciated and connected to the bigger vision of the organization is what helps people be more productive and be able to particularly create the outcomes that we're trying to create. So as long as those outcomes are there, and then they see how they can contribute towards those outcomes, I don't worry too much about lines of code of hours in the computer. So we're not measuring any of those things, but rather having that open planning and the open review with them being accountable to each other and sharing with each other what they've been achieving. I feel that also helps with them wanting to be proud about their work and so I feel I don't have to worry too much about a specific outputs and rather the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think like that sort of discussion to office or not to office, it's becoming more towards the culture and trust and creating the safe environment for people to work. But we still see, as it all seems great, but we still see companies pushing back to the office. So I guess it would be a blind statement to say that companies who are pushing back to the office don't have as much trust. Or that didn't create that environment that people feel like more productive and engaged and loyal to the company. I don't know. Do you think it will be a fair statement to say? So if people want to be, if companies want people be in the office particular days, that it's some lack of trust and loyalty, or not necessary.
I mean, look, I think it depends there. So you've got company leaders like Elon Musk. I don't know which company, but in one of his companies, he's kind of mandated people come back. Now, if you're in a company like that, or aspiring to be a company like that, and by a company like really change the world, like push the limits, you're trying to put people on Mars, you're trying to, be the way everyone communicates online, whether successful or not. At that point, you're literally telling those people to say, look, this is your job, this is your hobby, this is everything, and you put it all on the line, you get the opportunity. And in retrospect, like if any one of those companies succeeds and you meet somebody who was on that company, you'll go, wow, Michael, what were you doing in the 2000s? Oh, I was working here and there. It's like, well, we put a man on Mars, we put a man on the moon, whatever it is. So I think in those companies, and if you're serious and you think you're one of those companies, then potentially you may go, this is going to give me that extra 1%, that extra 1% of commitment that I really, really need. The reverse of that is, I mean, the reality, and I do a lot of developer pairing, so I've seen a lot of people's setups at home. They're not good. There's a lot of people who haven't spent the time to get ergonomic chairs, to make sure they've got stuff closed off, that they can assess where their kids are or their cats are, or then, not cooking dinner in the middle of a meeting. Maybe that's okay as well. I've done it. But you look at that and you kind of go, I don't think you've got a good setup at home. At least if you're in an office, there'd be an office manager saying, look, you need a proper chair, you need the right height table, get a large monitor, get a keyboard that's separate from the laptop one because you're hunched over here. I think there are certain things there that people think, oh, it's work in an office or work at home. No, it's work at home. You've got to actually invest in a home office of some degree. And it's hard. Like I've got 4 kids. I'm in a suburbs of Melbourne. I haven't got room or money to have 2 extra offices for my wife and for myself to be able to have meetings in there. So I'm imagining a lot of people would find it very difficult. And it's probably easy initially, maybe when you're single or just in a relationship with somebody and you've got a house with 3 rooms and you go, hey, there's only 2 of us. But those people start having kids and they go, oh, okay, the kids need to get picked up and they need to play somewhere. And actually I'm in their bedroom, all sorts of things. As it is, I am in my son's bedroom. So they kind of know from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I may have a camera on, so probably don't go in and get changed. But, that doesn't work for everybody, and not everybody kind of makes sure that those things are set up. So certainly and I think it was mentioned in the comments, and I think you mentioned at the beginning, it's a privilege. And I think we have to take it seriously as a job to say, right, this is a privilege. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to make sure that my office setup is good, that you can hear me, my microphone's good, my camera's good. I have a table and chairs, whatever set up, and take it seriously, take it like a real job. So as I mentioned initially, some companies may just want to be getting that extra edge that they believe they could get by getting everybody involved. And some companies probably just go, look, there's a lot of people that don't actually seem to be effective at home. And probably all of us here are effective anywhere. And if you've got the opportunity to hire the people you want to work with, great. But I know as I said, I've jumped through a number of companies, and some people I'm like, I have no idea how they get any work done, given the rack that's ongoing there or what their working conditions are.
Definitely seen a few cats on the videos. That's for sure. I'm just a bit cautious about the time. We're already 45 minutes on discussion. We have a few comments. I just want to quickly get involved people from the audience. Jason saying the value you bring as Australian-based developer is the occasional face-to-face interaction with the business and your peers. Otherwise, there is no difference between you and a cheaper non-Australian-based developer. Raul, what do you think about that?
I mean, I do, like I imagine a lot of you also do, we use team augmentation. So we have a good number of additional developers that are overseas. So I do believe that for the ones that are Australian based, there has to be a clear reason to sort of show that there's value out from doing that as well. And obviously me having like managing the team, I can see the value of bringing them and having conversations about this is the solution that we are trying to develop. How is that going to be more closely aligned with the services that we deliver? So from that perspective, particularly from a non-profit, like working on a non-for-profit where I really want to make sure that everyone in the team has a good understanding of the services that we deliver and how the work that they do is creating value to support that. I feel that it's very important that they are in Australia and that they can be part of some of those processes. Whereas when we go down to just put in a new sprint and then having all of the tickets on that sprint and then just assigning that work, I think there's less of a concern about some of that work happening anywhere. And so I do feel like we have to continuously thinking what's the value that we are adding by being here and ensuring that when we come face to face, we're sort of showing how that's having a benefit. Otherwise, as the comments say, it's just as simple to just move that work overseas, and that will be a lot more cost effective.
Yeah, there's always that risk, I guess, when you're comparing Australian wages to other countries. Mark saying, my own experience is that if one of my developers says a task will take 5 days to complete, it takes no difference at home or in the office. I do worry that those working from home might end up working all night to achieve the 5 day because they've been spent the day doing other stuff. There is possibility in it, but I guess as a manager, that's something you can't control if the person chooses to work overnight. Like, or do you feel like you have some sort of responsibility? And it's like, Pedro, what do you think? Like, if your developer is just working overnight and surfing during the day, do you feel like some sense of responsibility that's happening?
That happened in the past and still happening. Look, I've worked in companies they do fully tracking, monitoring of computers. What I don't like, honestly, I never seen anything that my team did, and I told them, guys, you do whatever, I trust you, because I think whatever you're gonna do and whatever decision you're gonna make, you need to earn that trust. You need to the trust is the foundation of any human relationship. If you don't have the trust between your team and whoever they are, if they're overseas, Australian, and your team doesn't trust you, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have the best tool in the world, you can have the best developer in the world, things do not work. I always try to, whatever company I work for, I always try to understand their mission, the vision, the values, and for every single decision I make, and within my team, I always look at those values, the mission, the vision to see, yes, I am following what the company is trying to push to the market. And that was, I started building rapport with my team, I started working on that. I have cases of my team asking for. Thankfully, I never had to catch a team member surfing while he was in the off, and it never happened to me. I know it happens to many other companies here on the Gold Coast. The swell is coming, people don't come to work, and you know that they're not sick. Thankfully, never happened to me because I was able to build trust. I think you have to build trust. You have to trust your team, and team has to trust you. And it doesn't matter where they are in the world. They will get the job done. Happened a few times, as I mentioned, to my team members where they decide to take some time off during the day, work through the night, and they are tired the other day. And then they came to me, they had a conversation, we spoke about it. I gave them the reason why they should not do that and didn't repeat again. You can't control people, but you can definitely have some clear expectations and clear communication with them. That's all I can say. I mean, it's pretty hard to to monitor. I think I don't like monitoring people. I don't like this idea about tracking people's computer. I know a lot of companies do. I understand and respect the company's decision. I was a director in a company that they had to do this. They did my computer. It had all there. I don't like it, but I trust some. I respect the decision of some companies. It's not on my perspective of leading people and managing people by not kind of fully trust them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just cautious about the time, guys. We have 10 minutes left. I'll just quickly read a few comments coming through. Jefferson saying, I agree with Pedro that sometimes face-to-face interaction can solve problems in a faster way. Remote work depends on self-management to be productive, and a good scrum master. Here we go. Evandro saying, whether at home or in the office, your dedication to your work have to be evident. You make any environment work for you. Mohammed, hi everyone. A hybrid working model suits us all. I just returned from the office, and please, if I'm back to office, we would need at least one parking space for each employee. I don't see that here. Honestly, I would go back to office 5 days a week if I have a car park. So that's my prerequisition. Like I don't care if I need to be in office 5 days as long as I can drive there. So yeah, so that's me not being a fan of the public transport, obviously. But yeah, so again, different people have a different experience. And I think last question I want to ask you guys, just really cautious about the time. Maybe let's try to have a brief answer. But for example, you obviously your team have a diverse range of people. You know, someone like me who can go to office 5 days, but need a car space. Someone happy to work fully remote. Someone hate interacting to people. How do you make the policy? How do you decide when your team gonna meet? So you have this diverse range of people. How do you you can't really just say Yana want to be 5 days and team want to be 0 days. Let's do 2.5. Yes, so that kind of not always. Yeah, that compromise not always work. So, what I guess would be a strategy to decide how many times team need to meet and how if you have that diverse range of people? Maybe Raul, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think I really believe in that idea of being transparent about micro accommodations. So just sort of people understand that different things work for different people, and it's on the open. I think when you just start making different arrangements and then it's all very secret and people don't know about them, that's when it starts getting really, really hard, because then people feel that you're not being fair with them. But if from the very moment you're doing the interview process and you're hiring people and you explain, we try to be a flexible company, just want to know what it is that flexibility means to you, then you try to accommodate so that for each person you're trying your best to align with what's important to them, particularly with a non-for-profit where your employee value proposition is not just around money. It has to be really about mission alignment, flexibility, and a bunch of other things. I think that component of having that conversation from early on and trying to accommodate to what works for different people, but having a common framework where at least you can have most people at the same time online and be able to have a few meetings where you know that you're going to be able to get everyone together, then everything else I think you can really move around to make it fit for everyone.
Yeah, Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean it's hard. I haven't been anywhere that has mandated it as such. And a lot of things you can, there was a comment just then from Jason, as a bare minimum, teams should be coming together at the end of a sprint for retros. Absolutely, but not necessarily in person. So every retro that I've done for the last 4 years has been remote, and even the one that we've done in the past together has usually had a remote board, so you could put up comments and they can be tracked for later on. I mean, I love writing on pieces of paper, but sometimes some of those tools are almost good enough. I think the key here is two things. One, allow for the shoot the breeze kind of conversations, the water cooler chats. And those are really hard, right? Because you'll have a stand up and you go, cool, stand up's over. But if Michael wants to talk about paddleboarding with somebody, there's value in that. There's value in understanding, knowing your employees, the people you work with, your work colleagues, but it's hard to nurture that, right? Because it doesn't happen. You don't have that water cooler. You're not meeting for a coffee. So certainly, if you could do that through a more regular rhythm. But right now, as I said, like I'm in companies that are also hiring across diverse, locations. So it becomes expensive to say, hey, half my team currently is in Brisbane, and the other half in Melbourne. And I think the one thing that comes back here is a very, very strong vision. And I think Antoine de Saint-Exupéry puts it nicely. And he says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to collect the wood, don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. So if you have a strong vision that everyone just wants to do that vision, right, then work will just come naturally. They will want to be there for the meetings. If you've got one, they'll want to be with their cameras on. They will see the benefit of all of that because you've given them the vision. Not can you write 10 lines of code? Can you, in my case, I work for Mabel, can you connect people with diverse needs that need carers? And it's like, wow, that's a strong vision. Like, can I give independent care to people with disabilities or aged care? And if I buy into that vision, then I live and breathe that. And that means I will do the right amount of work. I will turn up to the meetings. I will turn up to have the discussions if they are in person or otherwise, because I can see the value in that. So I think vision is very important. It's harder to get across, but it's very important, even more so now that we're remote.
So would you go to office 5 days a week for the vision?
Yeah. Well,
even if you don't have a car.
Well, I'm a bike rider, and I do pay a lot for my property to be close to the city. So maybe I should do what Raul did and move out to the country. That'd be really nice. But for the time being, I can ride my bike. I almost feel great riding to the office because I can beat the traffic. I can beat the public transport. But yeah, look, I'd love to work for...
about the time.
Yep.
Yeah, Pedro, maybe just a quick answer from you before we wrap up.
Yeah, I look answering. I know recruiters. I love talking to recruiters. I think they always give me some insights that I haven't seen before. And I was talking. Someone asked, "Oh, would you be willing to go to the office?" I say, yes, even in Brisbane. I say, yeah. Look, for the right company, for the right vision, for the right goals and the right values, I would be willing to go there and be 9 to 5, go there, talk to people, manage people, and working through solutions that actually would make something better for the world. I think there are opportunities out there to bring, if your company is willing to bring people back to the office, there are a lot of opportunities for you to show the values, especially the vision, especially the other benefits. And if you don't want to go back to the office as a person, as an IT tech, there are a lot of companies out there that will continue to do everything remotely. At the end of the day, it's going to be a choice between what you want and what impact you want to do with your professional life towards a company, towards the world, or towards even to yourself. So it's a decision on you.
Yeah. Definitely. So, guys, we have quite a few comments. I just quickly go through the comments before we wrap up. Just saying, I would argue remote does not allow, we're talking about that sprint retros. I would argue remote does not allow the body language components during robust conversation during retros. Jason, we should have bring you to this conversation so you could be the one who talking pro office. Mark, respectfully, Pedro, it's not a trust conversation. I have people who will work 24/7 if I look the other way and leave it up to them entirely. There is responsibility on managers, employees, and members of empathetic society to make sure this does not happen. I think it's like the conversation for whole next live stream. Should we not allow people work 24/7 or not? And if it's our responsibility or not.
I can't force people to do anything. That's I can recommend them, but I can't force them. It's up to them. I may need to have a tough conversation with the staff later on, but I can't force them. I think I think it's hard to not force people not to do or do something.
Yeah. Michael saying, the last 4 years have been the most productive of my career, but I do miss the human interaction after a while, but the hybrid model is the way forward. Here you go. Someone was really productive remotely. Okay, guys, I'm really cautious about the time. I'm just quickly going to do announcement for next week. And you guys, Pedro, Michael, and Raul, as I said, there's a quick giveaway at the end. So you can connect with people who've been commenting on our stream, have a chance to have a virtual coffee chat with our speakers and continue the conversation. So while I'm doing the announcement, guys, try to pick someone from the chat, from the comments who you wanted to connect, and I'll connect you on LinkedIn so you can have a virtual coffee chat. And maybe people who disagree with some comments, you can take it offline and continue conversation, or just have a good chat about the industry. So next week, it's 6th of March, and it's almost International Women's Day. 8th of March is International Women's Day, and of course, it makes sense for me to run something around women in tech. So we're going to have a discussion about women in tech leadership and what sets them apart. And if anything sets them apart, is there any difference between men and women leadership? So this is a question for next week. So if you think that women lead differently, or if you think that women is same as men and it's just personality, everyone have different personalities. So please join us next Wednesday for this discussion. And we're going to ask 3 female leaders to share their experience and share their view on leadership, and is there any difference between male and female leadership. Anyway, so that's what's happening next week. And also, guys, don't forget, I have a tech walking this Saturday in Albert Park Fitness Station, Albert Park and Lake. We're doing a loop around the lake and having a great tech conversations and networking. So it's this Saturday, 2nd of March. So if you're in Melbourne, please make sure to join me, and for this face-to-face interaction. So there's a chance for us to meet face-to-face and actually, see each other body language. Okay, so that's enough of me. Guys, okay, so have you choose who you're going to connect with? Maybe I'll ask Raul first. Raul, is anyone in the chat getting the virtual coffee chat with you?
I'll connect with Evandro.
Here we go, Evandro. I'll make sure, Evandro, that you connect with me on LinkedIn so I can connect you with Raul. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so hang on, I've scrolled. Jason Van Lint. I want to talk about body language and language and retros. It'd be great.
Continue conversation about the retros. Okay, Pedro, what about you?
I tried to find here where the comments are. I couldn't find it in LinkedIn.
They on the left.
That
if you click on the comments, I can't see.
Yes. So, yes, I can. Mark Gabriel.
Yes, yep. Mark, the conversation about 24/7.
Yes.
24/7 developers. Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Thank you for guys to spending this last hour with me and having the conversation. It's obviously, I feel like we just touched the little iceberg of the topic. It's such a multifaceted topic. As soon as we're talking about the remote and office work, there's so many other things comes to mind. So I think we haven't even touched about diversity and some advice for the companies who thinking to move to office and things like that. And actually the goal of the office and the organization is changing as well. So there's so many other things to take into consideration. But anyway, thank you so much for today's discussion. We can always take some of the questions offline. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Obviously, just the usual thing, subscribe to this channel, like this video. Of course, come on, subscribe to the channel. I really need to get to the 1,000 subscribers, guys. I need your help. Yes, it's only 100 left. I'm sure we can do it this month. Yeah. And I will see people in Melbourne on Saturday and everyone else online on next Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. Again, thank you, Raul, Michael, Pedro, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.